Welcome in, everyone. This is our flow alerts recap for the week of October 28th, 2024 to November 1st, 2024. A little shorter week this week with bigger earnings coming in this week, a lot of job data this week, so we kind of went a little light this week. So the video is going to be a little bit quicker, but let's get started here. And as always, for transparency purposes, I do like to show everybody. Pull it up here quick. For those, this is all always posted in Discord. I pop in flow. It's all live. Don't edit anything. Got our bid side, ETF flow. Some stuff's charted out in here when we have some better weeks, but everything's in here, 100% transparent with the posts. So let's get started here. So first up, we're starting on Monday here, the 28th, and we're going to work our way up. We had the 1220 RF23 puts. So again, looking at this, we're going to kind of look at the flow, and then we'll look at the kind of the net premiums and all that too. So let's get started. So again, you can see this is an opening trade on 1028, just based on that volume to open interest. You can see all that carrying over. Looks like the whale's still in. Let's look at the raw flow here. And with it being a little earlier in the week, it's going to kind of be a little harder to show some of these, but these did show up as a repeated hit, and you can see bigger size there. Let me try removing that time filter and seeing if that helps. Let's go back to the 20th. Yeah, sometimes it'll be a little goofy if it's a little further back in the week, but again, came in as a sweep, repeated hits. Good size, good premium. Looking at that volume candle, again, so we had 1,500 contracts traded at the ask here. Average was 85, 128,000 on this candle. Had a little dip here, but they closed green today, Friday. So these entered again. Entry was 0.85, hit a high of 0.88 today. They're only up about 3.5%. Little longer time frame on these, just so we're kind of looking for a little, probably a more mid to longer term move here. And looking at that net premium. So this is what stuck out to me. So on the 28th, when these came in, looking back at the 25th, look at the huge spike in net put premium. That's something that should stick out. RF doesn't get a lot of option activity. It's a regional bank stock, I believe, or it's not an ETF, but stock here. So again, seeing that huge spike there. Not a lot of net premiums or anything, and then we had that spike again yesterday on the 31st. You can kind of see that stock price dropping as that came in. So as of right now, the RFs have ran 0.85 to a top end of 0.88. Only up 3.5%, whales still in. And again, do whatever you want with this information. If you want to tail some of these that are still open, feel free to. Not here to give advice, but and then obviously I always look at that earnings, 77 days till earnings. This doesn't overlap earnings. They're not looking for an earnings move. So moving on, next, we had the 11.8 SPY 581 puts. And these came in a little closer to open here, but these did make a nice move, as you can see. We did have kind of some ask and bid side come in. We did have ask side come in first, though. So let's take a peek at that as that came in. Bump the results up. So again, one thing I'm always looking for is that IV increasing. You can see that IV increasing all the way up here. That's a good sign. Even though we're getting filled at the mid side, that IV is still increasing. We're getting a repeated hits ascending fill. This is a good sign. That the spot, which is the contract fill price, is being filled at that ask for pretty much all the way up, except for that one little mid there. And even following that up, again, the larger size is being filled at that ask there. that IV is continuing to go up. Little drop there, but still being filled with that ask. So a good sign there. Even though we had that bid side, that ask side came in first. And it looks like, so these filled at 689. So running from 689 and hitting a high of 1351 yesterday on 1031. You can see that up here. Saw a little action here at the ask side. Saw some contracts maybe come off a little bit here. But these running from 688 to 1351, that's a 96.37% gain there on those SPY puts. And taking a quick peek at that net put premium, bump this out 7 days. Again, kind of seeing that spike in that net put premium, seeing a lot of bid side call action here too. And always important to look at the holdings, just kind of see what's going on there too. Only goes back 1 day on the holdings, but so this is today, Friday. Not going to really see much there at the time. Can't really go back and show you, but that overall SPY net put premium, pretty bearish, I would say, versus bullish, except for yesterday, or well, Thursday on the 30th. But again, here's that movement of the contract. Whale entry, you can clearly just track the whale. You can see not a lot coming off the table here. Seeing some action here today and yesterday. That's where that reflects there, seeing some kind of possibly coming off. All right, so moving on now. We had 2/21/2025 TSM 165 puts. Again, looking at that, here's your whale entry. 1,100 contracts at an average fill of $5 per contract. Here's your volume on the day, volume carrying over. And you can see that volume still there for the most part. Looking at that raw flow. Again, IV stays up, seeing that spot being filled at the ask. Good size, good premium. And checking out that net put premium or net premiums. Little messier here. We had a spike in net put premium yesterday, but a spike in net call premium too. Kind of volatile because we just had earnings on this last week. Keep that in mind. You're going to see some volatility after earnings still. But flow has moved from 5 and we hit a high of 655 yesterday. So about 31% on those. Delta Airlines is next, 11/29/57 call. Again, looking at that raw flow feed. You can see it's repeated hits ascending fill. I like to bump the results out so I can kind of follow that up. So again, and it's on and so this is a little wider bid ask here, and you can see we're getting filled at that ask side there. Repeated hits ascending fill, and again, that only means that spot price increases as we go up. So you can see we had some bid side stuff here, but that spot is increasing, and then even after have that another big jump in that IV, good size and good premium coming there, and you're seeing that very close ask side fill. So the Delta Airline ones, so again, volume here on the 29th carrying over into the 30th. Whale's still in. Contracts hitting a high of 404 today. So contracts hitting from 228 to 404, 77% on those. Here's that whale entry. You can see that candle premium, 467,000. 2,000 contracts traded at that average fill of 227. Good sign there. Obviously, you can see that movement of the stock. Little dip yesterday, but whale held and looks like they're still in for the most part. Net put premium at the time. Not a lot of put premiums on the ask side. Huge spike in that net call premium yesterday. Did have that drop off the same day that came in, but at the time we were up there as well. So those Delta Airlines hitting 77%. Moving on to ARM, and this does overlap earnings. Obviously, 167 days is a little out there. But here is your whale entry. 2,883 contracts traded at, 17.20 per contract. Total of 4.9 million on that candle premium. Whale's still in. Contracts obviously 167 days. They're on a very longer time frame versus looking for an intraday, couple day move. But contracts being filled at that 17.20 only hit a high of about 18.40 the same day. Hit 18.40 on the 30th. So those contracts only about 7% on those contracts, but again, longer time frame there. Looking for a longer term move. That net premium. A lot of bullish net premium here. Big spike in that net put premium yesterday, though, which could have saw that decline here today. Looking at that raw flow, too. Again, a little drop here on the IV, but a lot of some increases in IV here, so a little different on this one because you have that increase in IV there. IV comes up a little bit there, drops a little here, but you're being filled at that ask side with good volume. So to me, this does look like a buy. Could be an earnings idea. I have no idea, but let's take a peek here at a little. Yeah, you're just going to see, I mean, that IV does drop there, but that fill with that wider bid ask does stay buy if I had to lean buy on that one. So these only hitting about 7%, 17.20 to that 18.40 high there. Again, longer term play. Next up, we had the 12/31 6:15 SPY calls here. So this whale could be, again, on a little longer term time frame. And SPY sometimes gets a little harder to track. You get a lot of volume on this one, but the 29th, you can see we had 11,000 contracts traded. Majority of it carrying over. Looks like may have hard to tell here because you don't have a lot of that open interest or that volume carrying over into open interest. About a half there, so they could have took some contracts off maybe here at the ask, about 174 for a loss. Hard to know, obviously, but these contracts running. So here's your 10,000 ask side contracts at 249, 2.4 million on these. These contracts did hit a high on 10/30 for 273. So contracts running from 249 to 270, actually 275 here. So about a little over 10%. Again, longer time frame here. A lot coming up next week with FOMC, more earnings. They're probably on a longer time frame. Again, hard to know. We looked at that net premium already. Big spike on the 30th and net call premium. Haven't really seen that big move up yet. A lot of bid side put premium there coming off yesterday and little bid side and for net call and net put premium today. Holdings today. Holdings staying pretty bullish here. So these contracts only hitting a high of about 10.44%. Whale is down right now, but we're just going to track the large move. I'm looking for at least 10 to 15% for a good trade. Shouldn't be letting 10% trades go red. That's the way I view it. Should always have stops up or at least break even if you're up at 10%. But yeah, this whale kind of down. So this could be a discounted entry if you do still track this whale and still like that overall setup on SPY in the market. Up next, we have the 11/22 C65 calls. And these, again, a slower mover here. Here's your flow, 361,000 at 181 for 2,000 contracts. Looking at the flow. Again, that IV kind of drops here, but then we jump back up into a repeated hit descending fill. And you can see that spot price increasing all the way up. Good sign. Here's your whale entry at 181. Only hit about 202 same day. About 12% on those, almost 13%, but majority of the volume looks to still be there. Would watch about 300 contracts here, see what that carries over to on Monday. But for the most part, whale's still in, it looks like. That net premium. Again, not seeing a lot of action here for the last 7 days, and then a huge spike today on November 1st, actually, into close, it looks like. Good sign there. Yeah, huge spike into close today. Net premium of 91 million. And this does not overlap earnings. So not an earnings play. Next up, we had SMCI 11/8/39 call. This was after the big dip in the morning. So I'm going to have to drop this one down a little bit. So this was the morning of the 30th. So here's your whale entry. This whale was looking for a scalp play. About 195 was their entry for 112,000. Spreads were very, very big on this one, so this would have been a very quick trade. But running from 194 to a huge quick spike of 329 there. 329 on the big spike there. These contracts hit 68% within minutes. So your entry on Central Time, so 8:50, 8:55. Within 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, these hit 329. Should obviously have stops up on something that spikes that much. I mean, it would give you enough time to get out here even around 247. So really easy one to follow there. And it looks like a lot of that ask side volume came in right after that too. Probably took some contracts off their trade there because they only had about 540 contracts, 560-ish. You can see about 60, 100 there, 150, 180. Obviously see it on their way down here. So it probably took some profits there and then maybe let some ride. But you can see the rest of that volume came today. So if they have anything or whatever's on here, probably most of this is going to close out. I'm going to take an assumption. We'll see on Monday morning. And that net premium on here has been wild the last couple days. Huge spike today, obviously. But there's a big drop. I actually had some net call premium here before the drop. But that net put premium really spiking going into earnings next week. Cat, so this was a put sell. Bump this back. So those SMCIs, 195 to about 329, 68%. So cat up next. So the put sells here, 12/23/30 puts. Again, they are neutral to bullish on selling puts. You want the contracts to decay, pretty much. They're selling to open. So 5,100 contracts, can see that's all there. Bid side, let's take a peek at this. Can see that IV decreasing, so you want it to be decreasing when they're selling. This is a good sign of that, so you can see that here. IV decreases all the way down. Spot price is more towards that bid side there. Really close to that bid side there. Pretty close to that bid side there. And descending fill just means that fill's going down as it comes in. That's a sign of selling contracts. Doesn't always 100% mean that, but this is something that I look for when I'm trading these. And these contracts actually hitting. Let's take a peek at the stock chart actually. So these came in on the 30th. Here is the 30th towards the... Here's your morning and the 30th. What time were these? 9 a.m. So again, if you treated this as a bullish trade, you could have took Cat from 379 all the way up to about 387 there if you wanted to scalp calls, whatever you wanted to do. But whale collected same day. We're going to go intraday. So 231-ish, 232-ish, down to about 175 same day. So the whale collected about 24% of that premium same day. Again, looks like they're still in. They're probably trying to collect that premium. Or if Cat dropped down to 330, they'd have to buy them back. Probably not going to drop $30, barring something big. The net premiums, a lot of bid side stuff here on the 30th when that came in. You can see that spike here in the morning and then kind of sold off, kind of coming back up now. So that whale's wanting Theta to eat these. Longer, little more mid-long termer on those. All right. Up next, Google. We'll just do a quick view of this. This was a really nice one for us. Your whale entry, 1,000 contracts at 282 for 287,000. Actually, we'll look at this because this was one of the better ones this week. So again, IV. This was after earnings. IV's coming up. Drops a little bit there, but again, ask side fills. And at the time, let's come back a little bit more. So 30th, we had a spike in net put premium too, and that volume of puts was very heavy versus the obviously no volume of calls, but that volume of puts was heavy, and you can see this paid off because here's your whale entry 282. Hitting a high of 790 today. So it's 182% on those. And the rest of these we'll just kind of zoom through here. So ABT. These running from 124, hitting a high of, got 158, 157. About 27% intraday on those. Looks like they're down a little bit now, so actually take a peek at the flow here. So this is why it's always important to adjust your stops up, because sometimes these whales can be wrong too. But ask side fills on a higher bid ask. IV does drop a little bit there, but it's not on a huge size. Well, this way, and this could always be a hedge for a whale too. You can't 100% know what they're doing. Well, it's multi-leg now, but at the time wasn't multi-leg. Yeah, I mean, something like this, you should always be adjusting stops up. Start sizing out contracts. 27% is a good return. So moving on there. SMCI, these came in yesterday. 237, hitting a high of 279 today, 16% on those. AMD, this is our one loss for the week. Here's your entry yesterday at 67. Got them at 67 and had a little spike this morning to 54. So I would have probably cut there if you're swinging 0 days because these expired today. This whale did have the right idea here, but so these came in on the 31st. This is yesterday in the morning. So they came in about 9:20. I probably should have looked at the time. 9 o'clock, 8:50, 9 o'clock. So here's your entry on AMD. Whale was right because AMD, since their entry dropped from 145 down to about 141, so a $4 drop. But with these being weeklies, Theta is very aggressive. We had a spike this morning on them, back up to 54. This is where I would have probably cut, and it looks like I had some action here. And something with this much volume and open interest now, harder to track. But let's see, 31st. How many contracts again? Let's see, 12,000. Yeah, could have scalped a little off there at the top maybe, but majority of that carrying over. Obviously, they're going to close out now, but I'll treat these ones as a loss. So 67 will say they cut today at the high of the day at 54, so a 19% loss on those. We had SPY puts again coming in yesterday at the 31st, 127, hitting a high of 180. So 128 to 180, about 40% on those puts. If you would have scalped that intraday, it looks like they probably cut some there. And we had one more CCL for the 4/17/2025, 21 puts. And kind of slowly making their way up. 197's your entry. Hit about 215 again today. Again, slower mover here of about 10.82%. Those with 160 some days to go. These do obviously overlap earnings. But that is all I have for this week. Little shorter week, obviously, with earnings. A lot of job data. Not going to load and flow. That doesn't look good. But we had the one loss on AMD. Otherwise, everything else at least giving, besides RF, which is a little longer term. RF and ARM were our only two under a 10% total gain. So everything else at least above that 10% range. Yeah, have a great week, everyone. Another busy week next week with FOMC and earnings continuing. Trade smart. Have a great one, everyone.